I'm an immigrant from Eastern Europe, and I moved here 7 years ago. And to open your first checking account, you need to have an address and social security. And to rent your first apartment, you need a bank account. So you have proof of address after you pay your bill somewhere. So it's kind of hard. And you need to go to the branch in person, which is sometimes it's hard, especially for refugee. And the American banking system and financial system is kind of unique.
Welcome to the Feast Over Famine podcast. On this podcast, we're navigating the tension that we find where mission and profit collide. We're talking to CEOs, founders, executive directors, impact investors, and all of what we've identified as the global ecosystem of the social enterprise, business for transformation, business as mission landscape. We're talking to them about the obstacles they face, the strategic challenges they've been through, how they're funded, how they were started, and everything that's happened in between. We are trying to share their story in a way that's impactful to help us all to grow the social enterprise space for the better. Enjoy this week's episode with your host, Ryan Mahaffey.
All right, everyone. Welcome to another week of the Feast Over Famine podcast. Really excited you guys are here listening. And I had an awesome conversation just last week with Thomas and Dennis here from Restart. And we had some planning for the podcast. Like, we need to get you guys on and talk about this. Something that has been really passionate for me over the years. A lot of listeners probably know is like refugee immigration, particularly the refugee crisis has been really cool. And something that I've been pretty passionate about has really hit my heart. And we've had Camel Culture on the podcast talk about that and a handful of other organizations. But, you know, hearing that part of what Thomas and Dennis are doing with Restart was really cool, along with all the other aspects of what they're doing, how they're integrating this stuff. So Thomas, Dennis, welcome to the podcast. Excited to have you guys on.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. Glad to be here.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so let's start. Let's start with this. Like, Restart. Give me the high level 60-second. What is Restart? So people have kind of a context, and then we're gonna blow it all up and talk about all of it from there.
Yeah, so Restart is a mobile-only banking application. So we're partnered with a credit union to serve the underbanked. And we've been in the fintech space for many years and saw the opportunity to create a banking solution as a force for good to help with the underserved. Initially, you know, we got our start serving immigrants and refugees, and then also finding ways to give back through everyday consumer transactions. So we have a mobile banking app and a debit card. And so we launched in the market last September. So we've been live for 1 year. And through that journey, we've had opportunities come up, and we've really had a calling since the war in Ukraine to help open up banking accounts for Ukrainian refugees here in the United States. We have team members that are immigrants from Ukraine, and even we've hired several refugees onto our team. And so we're kind of building this community, educating people, helping them open bank accounts, and providing a solution that wasn't really available in the market. A lot of legacy banking and financial institutions are used to their bank branches. And so the US really trails behind Asia and Europe in terms of user experience and technology. And then the whole onboarding process, we had to create a kind of custom process that we can take immigration documents and other forms of ID to really serve the unique individual journeys that are happening. And so we've had great success so far, and we're looking to continue that into the future.
Yeah. So you dropped a lot of bombs in there in terms of, like, hopefully people are like, wait, what? I've never thought about this before. Because to be honest, like, I mean, I have a halfway degree in finance, I'll call it. You know, I know economics. I'm in this space, right? And I'm not in the banking world and like how it functions. And I'm not an immigrant. I'm not someone that would have an issue opening a bank account. So when you guys started telling me some of that stuff when we talked a few weeks ago, like I was like, oh man, yeah, that makes perfect sense, but I haven't seen it. So let's expand on some of that a little bit more. Like, so talk to me about I'm trying to figure out the best way to do it. Maybe just from the experience of an immigrant or a refugee that comes to the US, like they can't open a bank account. So maybe talk to me a little bit about like the experience of that person. Like if they go try to open a bank account, what would happen? What would they need to get? And what are some of the systems in place that are basically like creating a term I've never heard, underbanked population?
Well, I'll let Dennis take that part of the story because he's experienced it firsthand. And there's underbanked here in the United States, people that are just kind of excluded from the financial system, and a subset of that group is immigrants and refugees. So I'll let Dennis kind of tell a little bit more about his personal journey.
Cool.
I'm an immigrant from Eastern Europe, and I moved here 7 years ago. And to open your first checking account, you need to have an address and social security. And to rent your first apartment, you need a bank account. So you have proof of address after you pay your bill somewhere. So it's kind of hard. And you need to go to the branch in person, which is sometimes it's hard, especially for refugee. And the American banking system and financial system is kind of unique. I'm still trying to understand it after 7 years here. And we created our
That's
own.
not a good sign if you've been trying to understand it for 7 years and you haven't cracked it. That doesn't bode well for how well off it is.
Yeah, and if a system has no information about you, system doesn't trust you. So you need to create your credit score. What is a credit score? That was my question 7 years ago. Why do I need it? Now I understand it's like very important to build your credit score after you open your account, got some credit score builder or credit card and all this stuff. And for Ukrainian refugees, it's another problem. They don't have social security. Sometimes it takes them 6 months to have social security number. And they need to survive for this 6 months. And so they need the account. That's why we created this unique KYC process. KYC means know your customer. Know your customer. So we accept USCIS documents to open an account.
So just to pause there. Okay, so the know your customer thing, I love it. I remember you guys saying KYC the other day, and I never asked the acronym. I just went with it because it made sense in the context. Like, oh yeah, that's pretty cool. So it would benefit banks to, theoretically, banks want more customers. They want more money, assets under management, all that stuff, right? So it'd benefit them to get customers, right? And so why are you guys the first one? And I don't want to say it, maybe you are the first ones, maybe you're not, but why aren't other banks doing this? Like if it's as simple as know your customer, there's another legal way to do this. I mean, the American financial system is like, I'm not going to say it's one of the best in the world, but it's robust, it's functional, right? Like they should have figured this out so far. So yeah, like what code did you guys crack, or did you guys recognize something new? Is there an unwillingness, or is there a risk involved with other banks? Like talk to me a little bit about that nuance. And you guys can be, I should have said in the beginning, this is a brutally honest podcast. So dive on in. Like, we're not going to hurt feelings. Tell it like it is. I'm a guy, like everyone on the podcast knows, like I grew up listening to punk rock and shaking my fist at the man. Like we're all in on that side. So you can like light the system on fire if you want. This is a safe space for that.
Yeah, well, I'll try to disclose as much as I can. Part of that, I think, ventures into the secret sauce territory.
Fair enough. We can respect that.
But, banks in the United States have been doing their thing for, some upwards of over 100 years. And they're used to physical branch locations. They're used to meeting their customers in person. And so this whole transition to not just online, but to mobile banking apps, which are much more prevalent and advanced in other parts of the world, the US is still catching up. And a lot of executives in the financial institutions across the US are very seasoned, white-haired, used to an older world of banking. And so, as well as the compliance departments within the banks, how they approach onboarding users and risk profiles, and to create all new systems, you have to involve many different people across the bank, and there has to be a big appetite to do so. And a lot of them already have their cash cows and their customers and their accounts and their processes and their ways of doing business. And we were just blessed because I think we might be the only kind of mobile-only digital bank in the U.S. that has a credit union as a partner. And this credit union has a very special low-income credit union kind of charter or designation. So they have a mandate to serve the underbanked. And so when we presented this issue to them, the CIO basically, he was on board from day one. He said, this isn't a complicated problem to solve. It's just, we're going to have to create a new process and work with our compliance team and work with the regulators so everyone understands what's going on. And the main question for them is, how do you know this is a real customer? And with technology these days, it's not difficult to solve that. So, one of the ways we have this really part of the process is people take selfies. So we can compare passport picture to the selfie. They're able to upload some of their documents from, the immigration services. And we're able to, look those up to validate, okay, all this data is matching. And actually, what the CIO told us is some of these customers we're working with actually have more documentation than a traditional American who just puts in their security number and it just pings the credit bureaus to try to find history.
Anyone could have a social security number of anybody. I could have yours, for example, and go open a bank, and like identity theft is a real thing, right? And so that's really interesting. It's not that much different.
Yeah, and we're becoming a global society and world in some ways. So we're proving what we're doing in the U.S. But I think some of the statistics are, with the war in Ukraine, there's now 36 million refugees around the world. There's 100 million displaced people, and there's like 280 million migrants. Just like we were looking at the country of Dubai, UAE, the other day, and 90% of their population are migrants who come in and are their workforce. So I think how we provide financial services, how we know the true identities of individuals, and how we provide services, across borders or cater to people that are crossing borders is just going to become, more and more prevalent as maybe there's more war and conflict, or there's environmental issues and disasters. Yeah. And we want to be able to cater to the individuals that are really going through these tough experiences. So we feel like we're on the verge of creating something that can serve a lot of people when they really need it the most, with some of the most basic services. I mean, there are other banks that can open accounts, but they need immigrants and refugees to go into the physical bank branch.
A lot of times they don't have a driver's license. They've got like 5 kids and they're taking a bus across town to work, and it's like not efficient. And
yeah, you get it.
That can be a nightmare
at the branch that speaks their language. And
yeah, totally. Yeah. Or the branch is open past 5 when their job might end. Right. It's like, I think like you realize how privileged you are sometimes when you look at some of that stuff. Yeah.
So I hope I answered that question.
Yeah, totally. So 100% did. Yeah. And my head's spinning on some cool stuff. So I guess like, let's flip there's a lot I could go into on what you just said, but I'm going to like hold off on it for now, because I think we can go down a rabbit hole that would be really fun, but might not be helpful for this episode. So I'm going to put my business, maybe even investor hat on, and I'm going to say, all right, well, my thought would be is if I'm a bank and I want to make a ton of money, I want wealthy customers. I want a lot of assets under management. I want to invest that. I want to hold all that stuff. People might say, if you've got a 100,000 refugee clients, or 100% are refugee clients and they're immigrants and they're figuring that out and their assets under management, like how does the banking model work? And so again, you guys might have some secret sauce, but shifting from impact and saying, no, we're a for-profit bank that we're going to also be profitable. How have you guys structured and built that piece of it around it so that it's, because you're not asking for donations to go do this, right? You're not fundraising and saying, hey, help us do this to help. Like no, it's a business model. This is going to compete and work. So talk to me a little bit about that part, the business model of this thing.
To be profitable, you need your customer to use your card, and you need to win this competition with other banks. And actually, those refugees and immigrants, they are pretty good customers from this point of view, because they don't have much options to have other cards in their wallets.
Yeah.
With refugee, we are the only card in their wallet, so they use it a lot. And when they swipe the card, we make some money, and we donate 10% of our revenue to nonprofit organizations.
Yeah, and we don't have to deal with the same levels of risk that some other banks are facing when it comes to potential defaults. The market is getting pretty choppy. We're not overextended or over leveraged in that way. So we have a very simple model where we make money when people use our card, and users don't have to pay to use it. So it's a free service, which really helps us focus on providing, basic banking to people that really need it. Some banks do serve, immigrants and refugees, like we were saying, but they have to go into the branch. And the crazy thing is they charge them for the most basic of accounts and services if they don't have a certain level of deposits in their account. So it's like they're being penalized for being, quote unquote, poor. And some banks charge them like $12 for basic banking services, where we're able to provide them that and a really high quality service. And so, we're just going to keep building and keep adding on products that really serve.
Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, I remember when we were talking last week, and you don't have to share the number, but we were talking about, hey, like what market penetration do you guys need to get to? How many customers do you need at X price point until you guys break even? We're not going to share all those numbers on the podcast, but I was surprised, like at the number of, like, you guys have identified a great market out of your heart, not out of, hey, who can we, objectify to get money? Like, but hey, our heart is for this. There's this large number of people that fit that need this service. And there's a pretty low percentage of that number that you need to be profitable. And it's like, man, that's like the most beautiful part about social enterprise for me, is you can actually have the best way you build a business model. If you start with impact, sometimes you end up just stumbling upon that, like, oh, wow, I care about these people. Oh, wow, if we serve them well, then this is going to be a really profitable business. And then like everybody's winning, and it's really cool. So, I love your guys' answer on that. It's awesome. And I appreciate the over leveraged part, because it's, as systems and as things grow and scale, like a financial institution, like it gets more complicated to hold it all together. Right. And so I think you guys are like lean, you're nimble, you're able to do that. And that makes it to where you can serve certain populations, which is really cool. All right, everyone, I want to take a quick break from today's episode and just share a little bit about Impact Foundation, who's got an incredibly awesome model of using impact investment, charitable dollars, and funding tons of projects all over the world right now. But what if your investments could change the world? At Impact Foundation, they believe business with purpose has the power to transform society. Purpose-built for impact investing, Impact Foundation provides a streamlined way to fund businesses that seek social and spiritual transformation or make loans to charity, all while earning a financial return to grow your giving. Donors and investors have already supported more than 200 redemptive enterprises through their impact accounts. They provide needed fuel for companies that exist as a force of God's redemptive work in the world. To learn more about what they're doing in their Kingdom Impact Investing model, visit impactfoundation.org. Shifting gears on a little more, like Dennis, you talked about, hey, you're giving 10% of that number back to nonprofits and things. And so talk to me a little bit about, like, you guys could just have your business model. We could end the podcast right now and not talk about any of that stuff. But you guys took it a step further and you said, no, we want to donate some to nonprofits. So what was going on with you guys that said, hey, we want to add another element where we're giving a percentage back? What's the, what was the impetus of that? And then how does that function and work so far?
So Thomas, can you talk about our gamification feature?
Yeah, we've done something really cool. So we wanted to be able to kind of tithe our first fruits and give back.
Yeah.
For many different reasons. I think it's in our heart to do so, but we also see it being a way for us to stand out in the marketplace. A bank that actually does good and cares about people and gives. And so we were thankful to have an early partnership with Charity Water, where we were able to, for every time someone swiped and used our card, we would, on their behalf, donate 1 cent, which equals 11 liters of clean water to someone in the world. So
cool.
It was a way for us to kind of gamify charity, where within the app, we have these little glass bottles that would fill up and you would see how many, liters of water that you'd be able to donate every month. And when we started promoting this campaign, we got tons of really great feedback and from a very diverse group of users. So, for us, it was kind of an aha moment where we said, wow, people really want to do good with their everyday consumer spending. And they want a bank that they can trust that isn't just going to, charge them all these hidden fees and take as much profit as they can, but is actually going, in the inverse of that and giving back. So we ran that program for several months, and actually we just kind of switched up our the charity that we're supporting. So now for every swipe, we're collecting funds to donate first aid kits to people on the front lines of Ukraine. Cool. So we have a partnership with a local nonprofit here in Austin that is helping us facilitate that. So we vetted them and we're able to provide these kind of life-saving emergency medical kits. And through this process of gamifying charity, we see an opportunity to kind of combine banking and philanthropy and be able to bring those two worlds together and distribute benefits, provide really unique programs. And where we want to get to next year is actually allowing the end user to kind of have options of charities that they want to support. So we don't have to dictate where those donations and funds go. We can just help facilitate that. And we can build partnerships with these amazing organizations and philanthropic family foundations and all these groups that want to do and give back. We can use banking as this really powerful force for good. And because we're kind of stepping out of the way, and all we need people to do is use our card, and that helps cover our operating expenses. And then beyond, only, let's say 20,000 users, we're going to be very profitable. And that's just with one product. And we're looking, one revenue stream, and we're already looking at multiple revenue streams to bring in that don't expose us too much and also help us focus on serving, this underserved, underbanked population. So we want to be kind of the go-to place for people that have just arrived in America or trying to restart their life. So that's where the name originally came from.
Cool.
Yeah, for Americans, for American customers, it's like you need to answer the question, why do you need another card? You already have 10 cards in your wallet. But if you have restart card and you support Ukraine, just using our card will have a lot of difference for this, cause.
Yeah. Oh man. So I have like 50 thoughts on this that I think are really, really, well, I think they're important probably because they're my own thoughts, but like, okay. One, these are things I just love about what you guys are doing. Gamification. Like, I think gamification is super funny to me because it's like, I'll get myself in trouble here, but it's like kind of based on like boredom. Like in some ways, it's like a lot of things that are gamified are things that if people are busy and they're engaged in stuff, a lot of times they wouldn't necessarily be doing something with that. So I remember in college, there was some like, I don't know if you like let the phone listen to the commercial on TV when you're watching whatever, you got like points and you could redeem them for like a $10 Target gift card. Super cool, whatever. But it was kind of like, okay, well, as I got older and I got my career, I was like, I don't really have the time to do that. And so gamification is kind of interesting to me because it doesn't always have like a full on place, or you got to kind of go out of your way to like get the benefits from it. With you guys, like you don't have to go out of your way. Like people are naturally using, like we're all swiping a card multiple times a day. And so you can kind of gamify that and do that in a really special way. That's pretty cool. The second piece going off of that is I think a lot of social enterprises, like the way that people can have an impact with their disposable income is a lot of times it's not like everyday purchases. You know, you could buy the most example, like a Patagonia jacket. So you buy a $400 Patagonia jacket, you know that went to serving the environment and all this kind of cool stuff. But you're not buying a $400 Patagonia jacket every single day. You're swiping your card 10 times a day. You know what I mean? And so it's like, oh, well, that's pretty impactful that like, and so I think you can create a culture where people can just like, they're interacting with that consistently, and then it's gamified. So now all of a sudden gamification becomes like, oh, that's actually pretty cool. I'm interacting with it pretty regularly. The other thing you guys said that I thought was really impactful was consumers, like you didn't really say not trusting banks, but like I can buy the $400 Patagonia jacket and I'm, you know, for a long time I was like, I think I can trust Yvon Chouinard and he's going to do the right thing and they're going to do it. And then they just like gave their whole company a nonprofit. I'm like, they did the right thing. I did it right. Right. It's like super cool. But I think there's a little bit of like maybe a consumer cynicism towards the banking industry. Cause even if like Chase says, hey, we're giving back to Ukraine or whatever, I'm like, yeah, but you know, what does that mean? Does that mean you're giving back this tiny 10% fund to Ukraine? Is your board of directors on board with that? Like, it's just a massive system, right? And so I could regret this podcast in 5 years because you guys are some massive company with a board of directors and you're like doing the same thing. I don't think that's going to be true. But a small company doing that's founded on these principles, that's one that I think people could say, yeah, I'm going to bank. Like, I'm going to bank somewhere. Might as well bank somewhere I can trust like that. I think the biggest challenge for you guys would be like trust, right? You know, you're a small company, you're new. Like if I go to Chase and like they have all the money for cybersecurity and this and that, but with fintech now, like that's an API integration and that's all figured out. But I think it'll take time. So as you guys were talking like the change in gamification, like consumer purchasing habits and how people want to have impact with that and all these things, like I'm stoked about it because I feel like you guys just really tied all these things together into a product. And my hope is people, you know, like you guys are getting me to think, I'm like, oh, man, I need a restart card. You know, I think the hardest part about that for me is like, I want my like airline miles from Southwest because like we want to fly. It's like, you know, and maybe you guys do that at some point, but it's really cool and really impactful. So I don't know what thoughts you guys have on gamification, all that stuff. You shared some of it, but it's really, really cool and really interesting on those points.
Yeah, it's just the feedback loop where, you know, you can make the choice and people, you know, in America, people have several different cards they're using and for different purposes. So it's pretty easy to, with direct deposit, to chop up your paychecks and have some going to one bank and some going to another. And then being able to know, you know, for big purchases, I might use this card, but for everyday spending, I'm going to use my Restart card.
Yeah.
And being able to kind of have this custom tailored strategy so you can do both. You can get the benefits and rewards that you're chasing, but you can also, you know, give back and have an impact. And so it's really in fintech, and you know, we're grateful to have a financial institution as a partner that's been around for over 70 years and has all of that, you know, security in place and compliance and, you know, making sure that we can be a trustworthy institution. It's not like we're built in a
not like two random guys in Austin in an office that like, I guess I'm going to trust them with all my money. Okay. Yeah. Are you guys able to share who that that partner is, the credit union?
It's on our website, you know.
Okay, cool.
About
Yeah,
our
that's
website,
fine.
in the fine print, it's all there.
Okay, fair enough. That works. That's a good enough answer. If people are thinking that they want to dig in, they can go find that there. That's super cool. And that's a new learning for me. I didn't pick that up completely last time, so that's super cool. All right. Well, one other piece, and this is kind of off the rails that I wanted to talk about was you guys have raised money through. You guys have completed some rounds of funding. You might raise in the future. You might not. We're staying away from those topics for podcasts because we don't want to get in trouble for that. But you guys have raised through Impact Foundation, which is pretty cool. And so you guys have, talk to me a little bit about your guys' experience, like the way you guys utilize the charitable capital narrative and some of the partners that came along and why that was a good fit through Impact Foundation and then how that's kind of helped the business. Talk to me a little bit about that because I think a lot of people listening are either thinking about getting involved as an investor in that space or they're thinking about raising that way. And so I think hearing you guys' experience could be really helpful for them.
Impact Foundation provided a really unique opportunity, and we really love what they're doing because it's really cool that people can take some of their charitable capital or spin up a donor advised fund in I think like 5 minutes. And they can get that tax write-off and then they can give it to organizations that are doing good. But they can also give it to kind of this mission aligned startups. So I really like the work that Jeff and Amy have done over there to create this very unique vehicle. And we're excited to have an exit someday. So, the investors that have come in through Impact Foundation can grow their pool of charitable donations and provide more impact. And I see a world in the future where, a lot of organizations be funded through this sort of kind of donor advised fund model. And that, it's almost like an unfair competitive advantage where people want to do good. They want the double impact of, the return on investment and the impact. And once we can create this super large ecosystem of, social enterprises and they all start having exits and, there starts growing this large pool of charitable capital. And, nonprofits don't have to just rely on 100% donations anymore, but they can partner with, social enterprises or become a social enterprise. And then the impact, it grows exponentially from there.
Yeah. 1,000% agree. And it's cool that you touch on the fact that like when these exits happen, now that pool of money is just exponential and hopefully that just keeps growing and growing and growing. And the other cool thing is when those exits happen, people can take their money back and donate it if they want. It's not like it's stuck in the charitable hopefully it's stuck in the charitable capital world and they want to do that. But if they're like, hey, I'm going to put this money in for 10 years and then I want to donate it to X organization doing first aid kits in Ukraine or whatever, they can just donate that. And so it leaves some flexibility, which is cool. What, for you guys personally, I'm always curious about this part. Did you guys learn about Impact Foundation and then start throwing that out there and you attracted new relationships because you had that as an option? Or were there some existing relationships you guys had that you said, hey, they might not have had the capital or been able to do that, but they found out that was an option. And so maybe a church or someone, I don't know, like said, hey, we're going to do that. You don't have to give away who funded, but which of those two did you guys find working most for you?
We were introduced to Impact Foundation initially, and then we got to meet them in Dallas at Lions Den DFW. It's like a faith-driven entrepreneur and investor conference. And we felt like we had a really interesting story to tell and share just with the, faith-driven impact investing community. And that we were providing, this double return. And we just wanted to share our story. And so through that, we were able to find really interesting and great people that believed in what we were doing. And cool. We hope to, as we grow, continue to invite people from that space and that world because they really believe in what we're doing. Yes, the returns will be there, and we need to focus on making sure we do that right. But we want people that really believe and are supportive of our mission and, can pray for us and can share
Totally.
our story and can connect us with other organizations that are part of this kind of ecosystem of supporting those that have maybe been typically underserved.
Yeah. Yeah. Super cool. Yeah. It's awesome. Well, guys, thanks for being on. I mean, I guess to close us out, maybe each of you guys could share, like, what's one thing you're most excited about with Restart in the next 6 to 12 months as you guys are kind of looking out? What maybe it's a product development, maybe it's a certain portion of impact or something. But maybe you guys can both answer that really quick as we close out.
Well, I'm excited to get connected to more really great partners throughout this, ecosystem of refugee and immigrants. There's some really great organizations that are creating lots
Totally.
of impact in different ways, and we just want to be there to serve and to do our part. And as well as, we're now not just serving Ukrainian refugees, but we just hired a gentleman that's an Afghanistan refugee. And so he's
Wow, cool.
reaching out to his community. And so I'm really
Awesome.
excited to build more bridges into more of these immigrant and refugee communities and underserved. There's, people in the migrant worker space that come across from Mexico that have reached out to us. And so there's a lot of opportunity, and I'm just excited to, now that we have, this solution in market, to be able to grow our user base, find the products that really matter and can create an impact on people's lives, and find more investors that really believe in our journey.
Yeah, totally. Well, and I cool point you shared to that was, like, you guys don't speak every language in the world and you don't know every culture in the world. And so in order to support these communities, you're going to have to hire individuals from those. So we haven't even talked about the employment angle, but it's cool that you're able to hire, an Afghani refugee, like, provide a job, but then it's supporting the community and they're having an impact. So another cool Restart angle that I hadn't uncovered yet, which is awesome.
Yeah, and on that point, big shout out to Amplio. They do staffing and recruiting for refugees. So they've been an incredible partner of ours, and their CEO, Chris Chansey, has really been tremendous supporter. So,
Awesome.
I don't know if we would have gotten to this point without a lot of their insights. So
Cool. Well, we'll have to get them on the podcast at some point. They sound like a fun one to chat with. It's cool. Dennis, what about you?
For me, it's very important. For me, it's personal, and I'm pretty excited about helping real people, because that we will provide more services. We just started English as a second language classes for Ukraine or Afghanistan refugee.
Cool. Yeah.
Review our customers, and it's pretty awesome when you hear real stories from real people, and you have a chance to help them a little bit on the immigrate journey,
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Well, guys, it's awesome. As you can tell, it hits a lot of buttons for me of what I'm stoked about in this space and excited about. So we're thankful to know you guys and support you guys and send people your way and have you on the podcast. And thanks for joining and sharing some of your guys' story and what you're up to. Wish you guys luck in it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. Thank you for listening to another week of the Feast Over Famine podcast. We are so thankful you guys are here and listening. As always, hit that subscribe button on your favorite podcast listening apps. We would love to keep you guys up to date on new episodes that are coming out, when we're launching new episodes, when we're launching new seasons, and everything in between. So when we're in season, episodes are dropping every single Wednesday. Hit that subscribe button. Make sure you're up to date. Also, if you're loving what we're doing, be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, where we're constantly posting about our projects, what they're doing, what kinds of things we're working on. We'll recycle some podcasts, things about our partners, all sorts of fun stuff that you want to see. So hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all that kind of stuff, and check out what we're doing there. And yeah, we're stoked that you guys are listening. We hope this has been really fruitful, and we will catch you guys next week. And lastly, as you guys all know, we always talk about all sorts of things with impact investing, investment opportunities, entity structure modeling, how projects are getting capital. And as a disclaimer and a reminder, Feast Over Famine does not provide legal, tax, accounting, or other professional advice. You should consult professional advisors concerning the legal, tax, or accounting consequences of any activities related to your project or a project you're supporting. Feast Over Famine doesn't consult, advise, or assist with the offer or sale of securities in any capital raising transaction. We don't do that for the direct or indirect promotion or maintenance of a market for any securities. And Feast Over Famine does not engage in any activities for which an investment advisor's registration or license is required under the U.S. Investment Advisors Act of 1940 or under any other applicable federal or state law, or for which a broker's or dealer's registration or license is required under the U.S. Securities Exchange Act of 1934 or under any other applicable federal or state law. So there's your investment disclaimer. Hopefully that's helpful if you need it. And if you ever have any questions on that side of things, don't hesitate to reach out to us. Take care.